For our how-to writing, we are going to add in transition words. So transition words are signal words that help the reader to know what order to do things in. So when we're writing a how-to, we have to make sure that we put all of the steps in the order that they're supposed to do them because we're trying to teach them how to do something. So for our first steps at the beginning of our how-to, we're going to use words such as first or to begin, or maybe you want to say step one, or even to start. Then for the steps that come afterwards, we use these transition words for the middle. So this might be something like next, then, or maybe step two, step three, or even after. And then at the very end, for our last step, you're going to use words such as last, or finally, or even when you are finished. And you'll notice with all of these transition words, every single one of them has a comma that comes after. So we have to make sure that when we're putting our transition words into our writing, we put that comma after the transition word, and then we go on to the sentence. So I'll show you an example with mine. Here's my graphic organizer from yesterday. And so with this, I'm going to squeeze my transitions onto this first little line. If you don't have room to do that, you could even write it a little bit into your picture. But that's why this graphic organizer is just a draft. So we can add in and scratch out on here, and it doesn't have to be perfect. So you don't need to erase anything while you're doing this. Just squeeze it in where you can, whether it's maybe right on top of it or maybe out to the side. So this is my first step. So I want to think about which of these transition words for the beginning do I want to use? Well, I really like first. So I'm going to add that in just right on top. And notice I have my capital F because now that's going to be the beginning of my sentence. And also I used my little comma. But now this U, that's not going to be capitalized anymore. So what I might do is I could draw a little line through it to show that it needs to be lowercase, or I can just remember. So now let's look at our next step. This was the use a knife to spread the jelly on the other piece of bread. So now I'm going to use one of those beginning transitions. So I like to use then. Remember capital letter and don't forget that comma. Now I want another transition before my next step. So now I'm going to use next because I'm still not on my final step. So capital N, comma, next, put the two pieces of bread together with the peanut butter and jelly touching. And again, when I'm going to go back and write my final draft, I will not have that capital P there anymore because it's not the beginning of my sentence anymore. All right, now let's look at my last step. Now I can use one of those for the end of my process. So I'm going to use the word finally. Finally, cut the sandwich in half using a knife and eat your sandwich. Now it's your turn to add in transition words into your graphic organizer. Remember, it doesn't have to be perfect because this is still just a draft, so just squeeze it in wherever you can. I want to see a transition word for every single step.